it. And good. Oh my goodness, my camera is not working. Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, the 7th of August. August. Shoot. 2025. It is Rickcast. Thank you for hanging out with us on this beautiful Thursday evening. Thursdays are always kind of like not a poop show or a crap show. They're just very busy. Because I just went to go see this film, Weapons. It's the newest release this week. Yeah, it's fine. It's a horror movie, so I'm very neutral on horror movies. I can't really give a good up or down rating on it. It's not very clever. It thinks it is. Blah. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Or Saturday. I'll have a review drop on that one. Then we're gonna do tonight's show with you guys right now, and then it's on over to News from the Pew with the one and only Stephen Cunningham, where we're gonna be talking about all great things on that show as well. So I always say it never happens. It might be a quicker show than usual, just because. Welcome. I'm happy to see you all again. Thank you for allowing me to run over to do my official partner event at the gun range yesterday. It was a success. It was a good time, and I was very happy to be a part of it. And so we are back live today, and we have things to discuss as we always do. I mean, sometimes I complain that we don't have enough things to talk about. It's really not true. There's always something to talk about. There's always something to talk about. There's always something to, I guess, complain about. No, I kid. No, nothing to complain about. All good over here as well, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a look at what we are talking to about. Yeah, I'm not really like a big horror film guy. Rickcast reviews is starting to get a tiny bit of momentum, so I got to keep the reviews coming in order to maintain said momentum. So that's why I went to go see it. I don't. There are some horror movies that are fine, or thrillers. I'm not really a horror movie guy. I'm more of a thriller, not like the bad thriller, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but it is what it is in that regard. It was, like I said, it was fine. It wasn't amazing. It didn't knock me out of the park. There's a reason why it dropped the first weekend in August, or second weekend in August, because it's not a dumping station per se. August is the expectation for these films are not very high. Usually they're on the cheaper. Nobody 2. If you saw the first Nobody, the sequel to that, Nobody 2, I would have called it Nobody Ever Asks, but is dropping next week, and I'll have a review for that next week. And in the meantime, we're going to be talking about Trump wanting. So here's the thing. Like I came home, wife had food ready, just kind of like unhinged the jaw and shoved it down the throat, and then came up here to be able to be on time with you guys. So if I'm burping or anything like that, it's because the food's still trying to catch up to me at this point. We're going to talk about Trump wanting a new census. This could be a game changer. This could be a good Trump. I know I've been bad Trump a lot lately. This could be good Trump. Then we're going to talk about the FBI possibly, rumors of joining the Texas Republicans in the hunt for these rogue Democratic lawmakers who think they're more important than they really are. We'll see how that goes. Update on Fort Stewart. We have a name. We even have a motivation, which is kind of stupid and ridiculous. And every one of their motivations is stupid and ridiculous. But when we read this one, it's going to be even more stupid and ridiculous. And then finally, Gina Carano and Disney have settled their lawsuit, their legal troubles, whatever you want to call them. And such a shame, because it's settled before we were able to get to Discovery. Kind of like the whole Candace Owens and Bridget McCrone thing. That's settled before we got to Discovery. None of these things are going to Discovery, man. We want Discovery. We want to see the funny stuff. We want to see everything that's happening. Nah, they're settling. Bunch of settlers. Anyway, we are going to be having a good time here on Rickcast. So do me a favor, ladies and gentlemen. You need to hit that subscribe button and help the show grow as much as it can. So let's see here. I think I have one warm-up story. You're going to have to give me a little bit of grace because I'm trying to my stuff is all messed up. What can I say? It's just another night on Rickcast. What do you want? Here it is. We're going over here. Burr, burr, burr. There it is. And Shazam. So Shazam. There we go. Yeah, so I have to reset my window because my stupid computer was like, "Oh, you don't need that." Yes, I do. Here it is. Perfect. So I got to remember it that size. United Airlines grounds flights nationwide over technology issues. I have to say, I am a little disconcerted about the continued problems in the airline industry. Let me ask a question to the chat and to everybody watching. Do you go to confession before you step on an airplane? Because I do. Not going to lie. I will not step on an airplane unless I go to the sacrament of confession first. Just cannot, especially nowadays. So if you're a Catholic and you don't do that based on all these things, I would recommend doing so. But on Wednesday evening, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a grounding order for United Airlines departures at Chicago, O'Hare International, Denver, Newark, San Francisco, and Houston airports. United Airlines said a technological issue prompted it to hold up all mainline flights at their departure airports, causing delays this evening. United Airlines said I already said that. At O'Hare, video showed United planes queuing on the tarmac as delays ranged from an hour to over 4.5 hours. That is a nightmare for me, being on an airplane for like 4 hours and not flying. Oh my gosh. I don't get claustrophobic. I only got claustrophobic once, and that was on a return trip from Italy where I was stuck in the middle of the seats, and it was like hour 10 of a 15-hour or 16-hour flight, or maybe it was hour 7. Anyway, I just had a panic attack because I couldn't get out of the seat. If I was stuck in an airplane for 4 hours not flying, I would probably pull the door to get out, just like get me out of this cylinder of evil, of just misfortune. The ground stop issued by FAA affects United Airlines with delays and duration unknown, and United warned of additional delays. Yeah, it is a cluster. It's crazy. What is the technological issue? That's the question. What is the technological issue that's holding this thing up? It's nuts. It's nuts. But further proof that flying is absolutely terrible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for our warm-up story. Let us get to our first story of the night here on Rickcast. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. Leave a comment down below. Helps the show out immensely. So I've been very, very hard on Trump for a while. Deservedly so. And I think it's time for me to at least give a thumbs up on the good Trump. And I think this is a good Trump issue. I think this is a positive thing. I think this is something that should be done in addition to deportations and so forth. So President Trump has announced that he has directed the Department of Commerce to create a new U.S. census that excludes undocumented immigrants from the population count. Now, this is a positive thing. Why is this a positive thing? Because Democratic states, blue states, to counter the loss of people, California and New York kind of spring to mind, they backfill with illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants, illegal aliens, people that shouldn't be here. Seats in the House of Representatives and electoral votes are based on these lies. They are based on these lies, and this needs to get cleaned up. It needs to get cleaned up immediately, so that way we can actually have fair elections by those who actually have the right to vote in this union. Because that's the thing. People, and then we've read the stories about New York and California that are giving them, and Chicago, Illinois, they're giving them licenses. Hell, some of them are putting them in their police forces and all these other kinds of things. It's like, no. All this nonsense, it has to stop right now. It absolutely has to stop right now. So we got a couple videos. Just give me a second to get them set up. Coming to us from first Stephen Miller, where he's talking about the idea that, hey, this census needs to happen because right now we have a problem with the fact that there is entire delegations set up based on the falsity of a lie, which is a very simple way of me, stalling for time while I can get this video uploaded. So here's Stephen Miller talking about this.
Chicago, New York, Massachusetts. Democrats have gerrymandered the vote beyond recognition to try to maintain their advantage in the House elections. On top of that, let's not forget, Democrats rigged the 2020 census by including illegal aliens. Remember, they sued Donald Trump. They sued the administration. They fought tooth and nail to include illegal aliens in the census. 20 to 30 of House Democrat seats wouldn't exist but for illegal aliens. Texas is taking just a small corrective step against this ocean of fraud, this ocean of abuse by the corrupt Democrat Party, Sean.
So, I mean, he's correct. He's correct in every single one of these things that he's talking about. And so it needs to be corrected. I know the left is going to cry and complain about these things, but the fact of the matter is the left is only crying and complaining because they're potentially going to lose power and influence. So this was Trump. I guess he was in Florida. Him and Ron DeSantis spoke about it as well.
Ron, they include anybody that happens to be in your state.
Well, California would lose like 5 seats if they did a fair census. And even beyond that, the Biden census gypped Florida of at least 1 seat. We only got 1 seat in the last census. Are you trying to tell me that Florida only had 1 seat in that? We should have had at least 2. Texas should have had another one. That could be the difference in the House of Representatives and the majority. So I would love for them to redo the census for 26. My legislature will redistrict those lines. We'll get it to where it's fair. But as it's right now, this country is not fairly apportioned. I've got so many more millions of people in Florida that have representation because of that flawed census.
Mr. President, I think it's going to do very well. A lot of people, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's captivated the country. Everybody wants it. It's going to get in. It's going to pass, and we're going to.
I think it absolutely should. We're going to talk about that in a moment. I absolutely think it should get done. There should be no reason that the left, or there should be no reason that the census should go through and include anybody that is not born here or that is not a citizen. It's that simple. This isn't even a question about kicking them out. They just don't get to count. If I move to Italy, if I move to Switzerland in particular, you can move and you can live in Switzerland. You can operate in Switzerland. You don't get to be a citizen and you don't get to participate in the government there. This idea that you come here and we literally hand you the keys to, the welfare system, and we hand you the keys to the government is ludicrous. It's a ludicrous speed at this point. So I'm happy to see that Trump's proposal marks a shift from the longstanding census practice of counting all residents regarding of immigration status. That's just ridiculous. That's even a thing. that it's just off the wall nuts. And then finally, the census is used to determine congressional representation. Excluding undocumented immigrants it says may, but it will impact California, New York, Rhode Island, all of these places that have had net migrations that have lost people. I like how they're like, well, what about Florida, Texas? Yeah, it'll impact Florida. They'll get more seats. Texas will probably get more seats. But this idea that it's going to be a negative, that's why Democrats are pushing back against it. You're right, Peter. Democrats always do this, and Democrats always get away with it because nobody pushes back. Because when they do it, they're the Jedi, right? They're the arbiters of freedom and peace and democracy. But if you ever push back on it, if you ever try to fix their wrongs, you have turned into Yahtzee, AH, and you must be stopped at all costs because there's only one history lesson that is out there. All right, this is Rick Cast. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, do all the fun things. MD229, I am more than happy to do the little that I've done in case y'all didn't see this. This was I was tagged on this today. Mitchell, he needs help. His grandson was born last Friday. Yesterday, he was hospitalized at Children's Hospital. He's been baptized and he's received confirmation. His prayers are needed. Here's an update. His grandson went from near complete organ failure when he arrived at the hospital to being in stable condition. They are close to ruling out cancer, and they are the leading hypothesis would mean survival. However, now they fear possible brain damage. So we will keep your precious grandson in our prayers. Hopefully, we can get some good positive news out of this, and we will storm heaven with our prayers here for you, Mitchell. Hopefully, with all the best case scenario, and may the Holy Mother embrace your grandson, and may he be looked after by her. So keep Mitchell Davis and his precious grandson in your prayers, ladies and gentlemen. We have as Catholics to do, and we need to friggin' do it. Sorry, we got to absolutely do it, man. All right, let's get to our next story of the night, ladies and gentlemen. So we've been chronicling MDD 229. It is my pleasure, man, to do what I can. I'm happy to spread the word out as much as possible. I will. When I say this, I hope people don't get offended. Whenever somebody asks me to pray for their family, a grandson, a job intention, I always look at them and say, I'll rip off 3 Aves for you right now. I always like to do the 3 Aves for intentions. So I will make sure I do that, and I will include your grandson in my rosary tomorrow morning as well. MDD 229, the honor is mine. It really is, my friend. It really, really is. So let's move on to our next story of the night. I know it's such a weird transition. That actually is something we care about. That's something that means something. And this is like, oh, look at the FBI. It's such nothingness when you look at something like what Mitchell's going through, like actual life and death stuff that matters. And then it's like, oh, look at the loser Texas Democrats are being hunted by the FBI. But we will we'll get to it. So we have chronicled the flight of the Democrats, we will call it, out of Texas. I call it Operation Petulant Child, where they did not get their way, so they're stomping their feet, pretending they're brave, and running to the fat envelopes of J.B. Pritzker for protection, or to the hangnails of Governor Hateful Kate to keep them safe from the big bad boogeyman, which is just redistricting. Everybody redistricts. Sorry you lost. Get in the car, losers. We're going to redistrict the state. So the FBI, it's, earlier in the week, the Speaker of the House said, listen, we're going to put out arrest warrants for those who are not here to maintain the quorum. In Texas, I think you need 2/3 of the House membership, Republican and Democrat, in order to do business. So the Democrats, in in a move that shocked no one, fled the state to prevent the quorum. This time, and yes, they did this under Governor Perry. They did this before. So this is not the first time they've done this. But you should not be allowed to flee. The quorum is for natural disasters. The quorum is for some reason you can't get to the state capitol, because your car broke down or like half of the friggin' state fell into the ocean. It's not to run away because official business, you don't want to block official business. That needs to be changed. I hope they sneak something into the bills when they did. Quorum has to be, you cannot leave, you cannot skip quorum because you're a whiny little bitch. And I'm sorry for cussing. That needs to be written in law. You can write it just like that, guys. I think everybody will get the message. But the fact of the matter is, they left the quorum. They didn't have the quorum, not for reasons. They did it because they're whiny little losers. So the Speaker of the House said, listen, we're going to put warrants for them. And Ken Paxton came out with this opinion that says, listen, if they disregard their seats, we can remove them. And yesterday, Greg Paxton, I'm shoving names together. Greg Abbott said, Texas Supreme Court, I'd like you to back that statement from Ken Paxton. If they're not here by tomorrow, we can vacate their seat. And then today, Governor Abbott went to...
They include anybody...
I don't like how the audio goes before the video. Anyway, Greg Abbott went on with Dana Lash and spoke about what the next step is.
Here's what we're doing. One is we have arrest warrants out for all of them. If there are some in Texas, which I understand that there may be, the Texas Department of Public Safety is searching for them. We'll find them and we'll arrest them and take them to the Texas Capitol. Those who are out of state think that they are beyond the reach of Texas law enforcement and that they may or may not be. But for one, when they come back, they're not going to go to their cozy home. They will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. But know this, it's my understanding that the FBI is going to search for these derelict Texas House members in whatever state they may be in and help identify for them and maybe work with us to bring them back. Point one. Point two is these Democrats, they have received money and benefits at their request to support them while they are gone. It is a direct violation of the Texas Constitution as well as Texas bribery laws for them to receive a benefit to skip a vote. They could be charged with second-degree felony for committing bribery in the state of Texas. Third, and it happened yesterday, I filed a petition in the Texas Supreme Court that begins the removal process of these absconding Democrat members. And the Supreme Court responded immediately last night and told the leading Democrat in this cause, his name is Gene Wu, that he has to respond to my petition by Friday, where we're going to begin the process of trying to remove these absconding Democrats from.
I think it's fantastic. Let the FBI go get these people because they're supposed to be doing their job. I know Pink Camo Lizard, I highlighted his thing. No call, they fire you. These are public servants. They are not entitled to the seats. They do not deserve any special treatment. They are the lowest of the low. They are supposed to be working for you, and instead they're only serving their own interests. They're only setting up for future political runs. They're only auditioning for jobs outside of the state when a different person comes into power. They go work for somebody else, or they go work for Wall Street, or they go find a job on MSNBC. These people, most politicians are trash. Most of them are awful people. And all of these Democrats, every single one is. I don't care. They all are. And when they run away, they only serve to reinforce my point. Gene Wu from Houston is a terrible person. Rich, you don't know him. I've seen the stuff he tweets. I know the stuff he believes. I'm pretty sure he believes in abortion, in murdering babies. Gene Wu, Texas abortion. I'm pretty sure he does. And if you think of, and if you're a fan of murdering children, then guess what? You and me, we ain't vibing. We ain't on the same page. I ain't gonna be getting along with you. And Gene Wu has been there for way too long. And so and people, there's one person that said, I hope they do because they'll run their races and all these other things. It'll actually be the dumbest thing that they do. And I had to respond to him, even though the guy hasn't responded to me. It's very simple. You cut the head of the snake. And in this case, Gene Wu is the head of the snake. You cut him off, boom. He can't, he's been removed from office. The rest of these cowardly little jerks will come crawling back. Oh, I don't want to lose my seat. I don't want to lose my seat. They'll come running back. It won't matter about Gene Wu. You can fight it out in his race forever. We don't need him. We just need a quorum. We'll get enough of them to come running back. So that's what you got to do. You got to cut the head of the Hydra. And when another head pops up, you got to cut that head too. You got to remove them. Because right now, they are acting this way because they've lived in this bubble of security that they've never been held to account. Oh, that's why, because one of my lights is on. They've never been held to account. Hold them to account. So I'm very happy that Governor Abbott is doing this. I'm very happy that Ken Paxton's in the campaign year against John Cornyn. If he needs to just lock every single one of these, if Ken Paxton is able to get this thing through, and if he is able to lead the charge, pushing back against these Democrats, he will blow the doors off of John Cornyn's campaign. I don't care how many campaign. I'm already seeing campaign ads for John Cornyn. Oh, he's making Texas great again. Yeah, if Ken Paxton gets these Democrats to come back and he brings some of them back in handcuffs, he will win 90% to 10. It's absolutely ridiculous. So he's going to do that. Greg Abbott, he's a politician, so he's looking for his next gig. He's got to look tough on this. He's got to impress Trump. So these guys are going to go full bore. You got to give Trump credit on that one. He's the guy you need to impress in the Republican Party. And all these guys are working hard to impress Trump to get a job down the line. And if that's their reasoning for it, if it benefits me, that's fine. You know, you got to work for Trump to get these things done, then get it done. They just get it done. That's fine. I'm totally okay with it. With this regard. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rick Cast. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Let us get to our third story of the night here on Rick Cast. Let's see. Yesterday, I did the show was recorded because I had to go do an official partner event, and excuse me. There was a incident at Fort Stewart in Georgia. We now have an update on the incident at Fort Hood, Georgia, and what happened there. And I think it's pretty telling the things that happen at these military bases, and the fact that these soldiers we're always told that soldiers are the ones the military should be having guns. That's why civilians shouldn't have guns. And yet soldiers on these actual bases are not allowed to have that. We'll talk about that in a moment. But here is an update from yesterday's story. 5 U.S. soldiers shot dead at Georgia base. I'm not dead. Sorry. 5 U.S. I'm reading that, the chimichanga virus. 5 U.S. soldiers shot at Georgia base. Suspect a fellow soldier. Remember, Fort Hood was a fellow soldier as well. So, yeah, it's what happens when you lower the standards and you let anybody in. At Fort Stewart in Hinesville, Georgia, Quinilius Radford, a logistics sergeant, opened fire with a personal handgun, which he's not allowed to have, on Wednesday, or maybe he does. I don't know the rules on the base. You have to register all the guns if you have one in your house, but you can't walk around with it on the actual base. If somebody here is in the military that has been on base, I only know it's fuzzy to me because I worked at Fort Hood. I worked near Fort Hood, and I had delivery drivers and stuff like that. We would hold their firearms in our safe while they went on base to do stuff because you weren't allowed to have it. And it's just, if I didn't say Army, I'm sorry. I meant Army. Yeah. So it's one of these things that's just kind of nuts. So authorities have Radford in custody as they investigate motives, but the motive remains unclear at this time. I have an update on that. Minutes later, the base was locked down at 11:04, and the alleged shooter was apprehended at 11:35. Schools near the base went into lockdown. Broader questions about personal firearms and military installations have emerged as the FBI helps investigate the incident, reigniting debates over Army policy barring personal weapons on the installation. I thought you could have personal weapons, but you had to register them with the MPs. Like I said, I heard a bunch of stuff different ways. Nobody really knew anything about that. But I got 2 videos on what
Here's what we're doing.
Oh, not you, Greggy. You already had your time to talk. We're going to talk about something else now. We're talking about what happened at the base. Here is from CNN talking about Mr. Radford.
Back in this community, they want to know exactly what happened. But talking about the suspect, Cornelius Radford, we do know the New York Times has talked to his father. He actually made some allegations saying his son wanted to transfer from this base and was facing racism. So we actually reached out to.
So he was facing racism. So his idea was to go shoot fellow soldiers. I don't think that flies. I don't think that flies too well, Quintilius or Cornelius, Mr. Radford.
Out to the third ID to ask about those claims, and so far they have not gotten back to us yet about the claims. They said there's been sort of an active investigation ongoing in terms of the claims made by Cornelius Radford, but we do know from our own reporting there was some sort of beef there between him and one of the co-workers. He was very upset, then brought that weapon onto the base here and opened fire. We know he shot the person that he was having that disagreement with and then moved to 4 other people. Then the soldiers jumped in and were able to tackle him. We talked about that new image that we have of him being transferred into military custody. Hopefully we'll put that up on the screen so everyone can see it. One of the things that struck me is his size as he was being moved through here. There is additional video that we hope to have a little bit later on this afternoon of him being transferred into military custody. We're also told today at 9:25 that the Secretary of the Army will be here. There'll be a news conference, so hopefully we'll learn more information. But listen to the general here for this base talk about how other soldiers jumped in.
Yeah, we don't have that. We don't have that. What we will have is the actual press conference of what happened.
In Georgia. Morning, shortly before 11 o'clock, an active duty soldier assigned to Fort Stewart, Georgia, shot and wounded 5 of his fellow soldiers here on Fort Stewart. Thankfully, all are in stable condition and all are expected to recover. The alleged shooter is in custody. We have reestablished security. I have lifted all lockdown measures on Fort Stewart, and there is currently no threat to the local community. I'd like to recognize and thank our Army law enforcement and medical personnel and our partners from local, state, and federal law enforcement and emergency services for their quick response and support. I would also like to thank the brave soldiers who immediately intervened and subdued the shooter. These soldiers, without a doubt, prevented further casualties. Our wounded soldiers were initially evacuated to Wynn Army Community Hospital right here on Fort Stewart. All arrived in stable condition, and 3 of the 5 required surgical intervention. 2 have been transported to Memorial Hospital in Savannah, Georgia for additional care. We have identified the alleged shooter as Sergeant Cornelius Radford, an automated logistics sergeant assigned to 2nd Brigade Combat Team. Sergeant Radford has not previously deployed to combat. Sergeant Radford has been interviewed by the Army Criminal Investigation Division and is currently in pretrial confinement, awaiting a charging decision by the Office of the Special Trial Counsel.
All right, so that is what the official narrative is. Mr. Radford is. It sounds like racism is going to be mentioned. I don't know if that's going to really fly for much, because I'll tell you this much. stories about unfortunate racism in the armed forces goes back to World War II and beyond. None of those guys decided to open fire on their fellow soldiers. Other stuff may have happened. There's always stories about that, but it was never to the point where personal weapons or firearms were brought on to take that to take it to a next level. So, yeah, I mean, it's pathetic. It's pathetic that these are men and women in the armed forces. I hope you're stronger mentally than that. You're the guys who are supposed to go out and fight the wars, or at least support. Be in support staff, support operating bases to help support the war effort. You got to be mentally tough. That's the thing, right? And especially when you think about the fact that the armed forces has gone head over heels and bent over backwards to ensure that racism doesn't play a role. You can't outlaw racism and you can't get rid of what's in people's hearts. And if people were truly racist to them, that sucks. It does. It's a terrible thing. But if you're, signing on the dotted line to be a member of the U.S. military, I'm hoping you're strong enough to shake off any of these insults that don't actually hurt you. Now, yeah, probably some kind of SSRI, Michael. You're probably right about that. Some kind of medication the guy was on. We don't know. We'll see if we even hear about anything after, then after Friday. This will have a news cycle for a day or two, and then it'll just kind of get buried, like all of these active shooter incidences. There's a couple days where they talk about it and they get to push their agenda and they get to cover this stuff, and then they just sweep it to the side because they don't really care about the victims or what happened. They're just looking for the headlines. They're also looking for ways to justify how they could put it into their anti-gun and gun control narrative. All right, ladies and gentlemen, last story of the last story of the night. Here it is. No, I'm saying it to myself, not to you guys. For you, here it is. The Gina Carano thing that was going on between her and Disney, it is over. This was back a couple years ago when I think it was back all the way to 2020 or 2021. Where Gina was working for the Disney company. She was on like one of the Disney shows. I think it was The Mandalorian. And she put a tweet out and everybody lost their mind. And since it was the height of 2020, she lost her job. I think it was with the help with Elon Musk. They sued Disney for wrongful termination because she never said anything out of line. And then you got like Pedro Pascal running around talking about transgenderism and how he hates Trump and all these other kinds of things. The hope was that Disney was going to fight this in court and we were going to get to discovery and see all kinds of juicy details about the ins and outs of what was going on at Disney at the time of her firing. Unfortunately, just like with the Bridget Macron thing that Candace Owens was involved with, no discovery. At least I don't think there's discovery with Candace Owens. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comment section down below. There's no discovery in this case. We know that for a fact. We know for a fact there's no discovery in this case. In fact, it was settled and the Disney Corporation put out a statement which had to hurt every single one of those blue-haired fat pigs as they were putting this out. Miss Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff, and she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. With this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with her in the near future, which was one of the things that she actually put in there. She actually wanted to get back in, start working again at Disney, which I guess, I don't know why you would want to do that. If a company fires me, anything to do with them, and the fact that she did was just kind of weird. But she's getting her wish. Pierce Morgan bet Candace 300,000 that she's a woman. I think Pierce might lose that bet. The lawsuit's not going the way everybody thought so. Listen, I don't agree with everything Candace says, but she's fearless, right? She's fearless, and she says some stuff, and a lot of times she ain't wrong. I mean, it helps when you got a billionaire husband and you can kind of just do whatever you want because you're not really afraid of reprisal. But either way, good for her. And good for Gina Carano because this whole thing has been cleared up. She's pretty much accepted back into Hollywood. It'll be interesting to see down the line because she's not a conservative, right? She's not a conservative. She was just kind of moderate. It's going to be interesting to see in a year or two if she goes full throttle leftist now that she's been accepted back into the Hollywood bosom. Wouldn't be the first time. Of course, I'm wrong on the Sydney Sweeney thing. I was for sure it was going to happen, and it hasn't. Maybe I'll be wrong on Gina Carano not having to worry about it simply because that's not the problem. That's not the same environment now. It's not the same environment, so she doesn't have to worry about it. So that is a little bit of entertainment news. And finally, I'll give you a quick wrap up of the film I saw this afternoon. It's a film called Weapons. It is a horror film. And let me see if I can bring up the IMDb on it. Anytime, internet. Anytime you want to work. You guys can watch me in real time. Not have an internet that works. Let's see. Weapons. With the Silver Surfette herself is in this movie. So when all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanish on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind the disappearance. Interesting concept. Not a typical horror film. Nice work with the setting and the tension. The ending's kind of hysterical. I think they were trying to make it much more dramatic, and I just kind of laughed through it. Now, for my Catholic brothers and sisters, my Christian brothers and sisters, there is unfortunately unneeded sexuality. We'll call it intercourse that takes place in the film that you need to see, even though you don't have to. You never have to. There is the taking of our Lord's name in vain multiple times. I mean, I wouldn't. If you have VidAngel, then maybe I would recommend it. But if you don't have VidAngel, I would steer clear of it. It is an interesting movie, but it is not a memorable movie. So my scale is good, bad, or indifferent. I'm indifferent about it. What does indifferent mean? I'm going to forget about it by the beginning of next week. I'll probably forget about it on Saturday once I drop the review. So, yeah, Weapons is out. It's a movie, and it's got witchcraft and all this other kind of stuff in there. I wouldn't flock out to see it. I'll say that much. So, there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this episode of Rickcast. I'm going to take about an hour break because I'm going to be jumping on with the one and only Steve Cunningham from News from the Pew at 8:40 Eastern, and we will be doing News from the Pew. The Centurion, yep, I've seen that. It always seems to pop up on my streaming services. I'll check that one out. The Centurion. I'll definitely. I'm always up for a good one. So if that one looks good, James, I'll definitely take a look at it. But in other words, I will talk to you all in about an hour as I head off to go just kind of sit down a little bit. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, Friday, here on Rickcast. God bless. And until that day comes, ladies and gentlemen, free Dexter Taylor.